Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Cybersecurity Deep Dive for Nonprofits. I'm Shane, the Managing Director at Intelliworx. Thanks for joining us as we dive into the nitty-gritty of cybersecurity for Australian not-for-profits. Today's session builds on our Cybersecurity Essentials webinar, and we're here to move beyond the basics into some real actionable strategies you can use. If you didn't see the last one, don't worry, it's on our YouTube channel. You should definitely check that out. Today's agenda is quite straightforward. We're going to run through a refresher, strategy evolution, some beyond basic strategies, a live demo, and then we'll have a Q&A at the last section of the webinar. Our speakers today are Blake Jeffrey, who's our COO at Intelliworx. Blake is a cybersecurity expert, and he's got a wealth of experience across various industries, knows how to tackle unique challenges. From Huntress, we have Sean Stitt, one of our valued partners. Sean is a senior sales engineer with over 2 decades in the IT industry. Sean's all about empowering partners and clients to achieve strong, sustainable IT outcomes. We have a Q&A function, so feel free to use that at any time, and we'll come back and answer your questions at the end of the webinar. I'm just going to run through Intelliworx. So if you don't know us, we're a managed IT service provider headquartered in Sydney, servicing clients worldwide. At Intelliworx, we're about making your business operations smoother and more efficient. We believe technology should be an enabler, not a burden. So we tailor our solutions to fit your unique needs and seamlessly integrate with your infrastructure. As a Microsoft partner, we deliver innovative IT solutions that boost efficiency, drive growth across various sectors. Those sectors include not-for-profit, financial services, insurance, and professional services. For NFPs, we leverage Intelliworx and Microsoft solutions to elevate your mission impact, broaden your outreach to engage new donors and volunteers, and maintain operational excellence to achieve your goals. Right, let's kick off things with a quick refresher on why cybersecurity is so crucial for not-for-profits. NFPs handle sensitive info like donor details, beneficiary records, and financial data. Cyber criminals really see this as a high value, low defense terrain. We're seeing more targeted phishing, ransomware attacks, and supply chain compromises against NFPs. Since March, incidents have included credential harvesting, email account takeovers, and ransomware exploiting unpatched systems. A breach can cause immediate operational chaos, service interruptions, data loss, financial penalties, and lasting damage to trust and reputation. Cybersecurity is crucial for nonprofits to protect sensitive information and avoid financial loss, legal liability, and reputational damage. Understanding cyber threats like phishing, malware, and ransomware is essential, as these can disrupt systems and compromise data. Every NFP should have risk assessment protocols, cyber policies, incident response plans, and regular audits. Technically, this means strong passwords, 2FA, network segmentation, endpoint protection, and probably most importantly, continuous staff training. The Australian Cyber Security Centre checklist is also a must-have reference. Right now, I'm going to hand over to Blake for the strategy evolution.
Thanks, Shane. So in our Essentials webinar, we talked about starting a cybersecurity plan and what is a must-have. Now let's take a technical deep dive into evolving your cybersecurity strategy forward. Multi-factor authentication, or MFA, is your first line of defense against credential compromise. But this is something that we shouldn't just enable and forget. We should add continuous improvement ideology to MFA and move users to more secure authentication methods as they become available. We recommend you add to your cybersecurity strategy secure MFA methods, either app-based or hardware tokens, and monitor for fatigue attacks or bypass attempts. Regularly auditing your enrollment and logging logs or signing logs also assist with this. User education for staff on social engineering risk tied to MFA will also assist in your plan. Network segmentation. Traditionally, a lot of companies and nonprofits have had flat networks, and we need to adjust our mindset and move beyond these. Segmenting sensitive systems or assets such as financial donor databases, executive endpoints, for example, away from other users will assist with your cybersecurity plan regarding segmentation. The use of VLANs, subnetting, and strict firewall rules between these networks will also assist with this. We should also be testing the network segmentation with simulated lateral movement exercises to ensure that threats are contained to the specified areas. We suggest you add to your strategy segmenting critical systems, like I mentioned before, using VLANs and firewalls, and testing containment. We at Intelliworx can assist with this by designing segmenting networks. We can configure your firewall rules, and we can also manage them ongoing. And we also can assist with running lateral movement tests, and Sean can also speak in regards to Huntress on this. Endpoint detection and response. Deploy EDR agents on all endpoints, not just the servers. Look for behavior detection capabilities, fileless attacks, privileged escalation, and weird process execution. Integrate automated response actions to isolate compromised systems in real time. We suggest you add to your strategy to deploy EDR across all your endpoints, servers, and as many things as you can get in your environment to detect behavioral threats and enable automated isolation of compromised devices and systems. Sean will also go into detail next on this. Vulnerability management. We should be scheduling frequent scans, not just quarterly, using authentication for deeper visibility on assets. We should be prioritized patching on internet-facing systems and critical business systems, and track the mean time it takes to remediate these, and do patch validation spot check. We suggest you run frequent automated authenticated scans, prioritize patching for exposed systems, and track remediation speed. We can assist with this by conducting the scans, managing the patching schedules, and reporting on remediation metrics. Incident response and tabletop exercises. We recommend you maintain a written incident response plan which details who does what, when, and how during an incident. We suggest you run these tabletop exercises quarterly with scenarios reflecting the latest threat intelligence or threats in the landscape, such as business email compromise or supply chain ransomware. Ensure your playbooks include communication protocols, backup strategies, and legal considerations. The take home from this is really to maintain a clear incident response plan and run quarterly tabletop exercises using realistic threat scenarios. We can assist with this by developing and working with you to develop incident response plans, facilitate the exercises, and provide rapid response and coordination during these incidents. To sum it up, adopting technical best practices, modern detection tools, and layered defenses are no longer optional for not-for-profits. They're essential for mission continuity and data protection. But don't worry if this all looks overwhelming. There is help out there. I'm going to be handing over to Sean now, who will show you a lot more technical cybersecurity stuff.
All right, thank you, Blake. All right, let's skip forward. So first, I'll kind of talk to you about the threat landscape, what we're seeing out there as Huntress. So we'll talk about this, but also I just want to reiterate some of the things that Blake and Shane have really brought up today. Right, you are under attack. This isn't a maybe or maybe it'll happen to me. No, it is going to happen. They're able to scale attacks a lot more. And a lot of the stuff from the last few years is kind of out of date, especially around the stats of how long it takes people to actually ransomware you. So When we started in Australia a couple of years ago, that was 20 plus days. You'll see in a minute that it's a lot different these days. So this isn't as a scare tactic. This is just showing the reality of things and making sure you have the controls in place to be able to protect from this stuff happening. And we'll show you some incident reports and some real stuff that have happened to NFPs. So these groups aren't just some person sitting in their parents' basement anymore wearing a black hoodie. I do understand I am sitting here in a black zip-up hoodie, but what they are doing is they've got a new playbook. In the past, they wanted to get access to your machine so they could ransomware you, so they could get paid once. Then they sat down as a business and went, how can we get paid twice? So this is where they're really not only encrypting your data, but they're going to steal it first. So they'll go and say, hey, pay us for the encryption. Oh, by the way, we have your data. If you don't pay us again, we're going to leak that client data or that personal data. And NFPs, you have some really, really sensitive documents, so we want to make sure those are protected. This is the frequency of threats we're seeing. Now, we're seeing the rise of what we refer to as info stealers. So info stealers are stealing multiple different things. Yes, it's stealing your client data, but an info stealer can also steal your data, your username, your password. We've just seen the Salesforce drift attack that is hitting multiple different big companies out there, right? That has happened. We've seen Optus, we've seen Latitude. These were all things where they did some info stealing, right? They wanted to get data. All of our data is the most valuable thing. And it's kind of similar to what I tell my friends anytime I'm talking to you. If you install anything on your phone or your home computer and you are not paying for it, your data is the product, right? Just think of it that way. If I'm not paying for something, they're getting money in some other way. So be really careful with those. We're seeing standard kind of malicious scripts, malware. Rat here is a remote access Trojan. Ransomware, RMM abuse. So they're actually using the same tools that we as IT people have used in the past to attack with those to really hide in plain sight. And we've been seeing a rise of those. Hacking tools are out there, and then lateral movement that Blake just talked about. That is one thing. They don't want to just get one device. They're going to get in there, find the rest of your network, and try and hit as much as possible. All right. This is what they're trying to do before ransomware. So they're trying to do privilege elevation. Blake talked about it. Right, trying to get to the admin level. If they get to the admin level, then they can start really messing stuff up. They want to get credential access. If they get credential access, now they've got access to maybe your personal email, maybe something they can sell to somebody else, like logins to Instagram or Facebook or things like that. Laterally moving, they're trying to get through your network, right? Defense evasion, this is where they're going to try and shut down various different tools. And Blake was spot on. This is why we need to have EDR on everything. It's non-negotiable anymore. You can't just put it on your servers, because what they do is they'll get on an unprotected workstation and they'll use that to launch down an attack to shut down the security tools on your server before they go in and ransomware it, right? So you got to be really careful there. But the biggest thing they're doing is trying to exfiltrate data. And they'll use the tools you use. They'll use OneDrive. They'll use SharePoint. They'll use Dropbox. They will use the tools that you have access to. So, as I mentioned earlier, it used to be 20 plus days that they were ransomwaring you. That is down to 16 hours from the time they get access to one machine in your environment to the time they have stolen your data and ransomwared you. It's down to about 16 hours. They're getting a lot faster. These are some of the biggest groups out there that we're seeing. So these are the people to look out for in the news. Ransom Hub, Inc/Links is becoming even more popular. Akira is really popular. The reason it's at 16.88 hours is because Medusa isn't as good as the rest. If we get rid of Medusa, we're down to about 6 hours. And now a lot of people go, oh, well, they attack at 3 in the morning. No, they don't anymore. They actually attack at around 11 a.m. in Australian time zone. The reason for that is because they can run tools that can look like an IT team is running those tools as well. So they try to hide in plain sight, and so the attack is less obvious. I can also tell you from our research that we're doing for our next year's report is that Australia is now used as a staging ground for all their new attacks. They want to test it out because they've realized that we actually have good controls in here. We have government mandated controls with the Essential 8 and the ISM and SMB 1001. So we have good protection here. So they're trying to figure out if we can get through there, this will work worldwide. All right, so remote access and RMM abuse, just some things to look out for. If anybody other than Intelliworx asks you to run a tool called Screen Connect or ConnectWise Control, if you see that name, do not install it. It gives them full remote access to your machine. They're going to go ahead and do it. Talk to your IT person, talk to Intelliworx to see if you have any open RDP. This is how we used to connect to machines in the past. So we'll use that. Log Me In here is another one, like Screen Connect. TeamViewer is another one. VNC, Ninja RMM. These are the ones that we're seeing a lot of the time. All right. Identity. So they don't want to just attack your machine. And Blake and Shane have both mentioned business email compromise. So business email compromise is going to come from identity compromise. And how they're doing this and how they're getting around a lot of your controls is through a couple of things. They're going to do VPNs. All right. I'm sure you've all seen sporting events. You've seen YouTube ads. You've seen ads during sporting events. You've seen sporting sponsorship for things like NordVPN, ExpressVPN, TunnelBear. Will threat actors also buy this? And this is how they bypass some of your Microsoft controls. Right. So if you have conditional access in there to say, we only allow people to log in from Australia, well, I just fire up ExpressVPN and say, well, I'm in Australia now. Now I'm in. And this is why Blake and Shane were mentioning stronger MFA, right? Stronger MFA, phishing resistant tokens. All of these things will deliver more outcomes for you to stay protected, all right? Location rules, people logging in from overseas, all right? We don't want that generally. We know you do travel, but make sure you inform people before you travel. Credential theft, this is a real interesting one because people think they're stealing the credentials off their actual work machine. It's not. So one thing I see a lot of the time is password reuse. So they get your credentials off your home computer. So somebody's downloaded something, somebody's clicked a link on their home computer or a computer out there in the wild, or somebody has scanned a QR code. Please stop trusting QR codes. Somebody scanned a QR code and that's given them access to credentials. Those credentials have been reused somewhere and then they use that to start doing some other attacks. The one that we're really seeing on the rise is token theft and attacker in the middle attempt. So token theft and attacker in the middle are the biggest attacks in identity in 2025. What they're trying to do here is they're going to trick you by going, can you go to this phishing website? Cool. All right, let me click on the link. I click on that and it looks like the normal Microsoft page. And I can show you this. It looks like the normal Microsoft page, except for it will be a phishing domain. So always check the domain. There's a few other things I'll tell you to check as well. But always check the domain. When you put your credentials in, their computer is actually just passing through the information to Microsoft. So you'll still log in normally. However, you don't realize that you're being routed through another computer, which has collected what you would know as the cookie on the machine, or what's known as a session token. Even if you have MFA at this point, unless you have phishing resistant MFA, me grabbing that token in transit means I can log in and not have to send an MFA response, and I can use tools on my computer to continually refresh that token so it never expires. I now have full access to your mailbox. There is another one as well. So if you've got a smart fridge or you've got a printer or anything like that, we can actually use something called device code authentication, where I can send you a real Microsoft page ask you to throw in a code that I've generated on my side, and then that will just log me in. It is used for meeting rooms. It's used for printers to do send to email and things like that. If anybody sends you a code and says, hey, can you just log into this normal Microsoft site and throw this code in for me? Report that immediately to Intelliworx, right? They're trying to steal the session, right? If they do get into your account, they're going to try and do inbox rules. So they're going to try and hide various different emails from you. So they're going to try and hide things like invoice or pagee or password reset. They're going to put it into your RSS feeds. They're going to put it into your deleted items, or they're going to put it in the conversation history folder, and they're going to mark it as read. So one thing that you should do is every so often, just have a look at your inbox rules, whether this is your personal account or your corporate account. Just have a look for your inbox rules. It will be very, very obvious from the name of the inbox rule. It'll either be named 3 full stops, so 3 dots, 1 dot, a blank space, or it'll be some sort of keyboard smash. So think ASD, FGH, right? It's never named properly. So just watch out. So let's show you some real incident reports where we've seen not-for-profits attacked. And I'm not going to call out the actual business name, but I'll give you a location and the type of business it was. And this was a charity, and this is one where they went to this server.y googly. They got tricked into going to this dodgy site. It was an RSVP invitation that they double clicked. It went and downloaded Screen Connect, and it came from a Google presentation. So like, hey, we've got this Google presentation about a charity event. They opened that. It then linked to this server site, downloaded this RSVP invitation that was then ran, which gave them remote access to the computer. In this case, we saw this, we isolated the machine. So we took it so it couldn't communicate with anyone. We provided the report to a business like Intelliworx with how to fix this, as well as we ran the remediations for them to clean it up immediately, right? This is where it's like, hey, get them in some security training as well, just to make sure they don't click these links. This one's a healthcare foundation in the US. So this is one where it was a couple of different incident reports, but basically the person got tricked into running an executable called MS Build, where they just were getting tricked into running it to set up like Microsoft Office type stuff. All right. This then installed a remote access Trojan, which then gave them the ability to load malware on the machine. Once again, we isolated this within a few minutes and went, no, this isn't good. Let's get this off the computer. So this was installing a whole bunch of different drivers onto the machine and payloads, so they could then go and breach the machine. All right. This last one actually absolutely breaks my heart. They do not have morals, these people. I have seen them attack children's cancer charities as well. This was a Children's Health Association in Australia for teenage and toddlers. Horrendous thing to attack. This is one where they sent an adversary or an attacker in the middle attack to try and get access to the email box. So this is one where we revoked all sessions. So we logged the identity, we logged the Microsoft 365 account out of every single device. We then disabled it so it couldn't be attacked anymore. And then we went ahead and worked with the company like Intelliworx to make sure MFA was set up, that conditional access policies that were set up, that the password was reset to make sure that this attack couldn't happen again. All right. So just here, Huntress really does work well together with Microsoft. So the things that you're getting from Microsoft, those Microsoft plans, so your different SKUs, will tie in with both Defender AV as well as the Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Business, and will bring the human security element to it to make sure that you're protected. So this is a really good example. This is one where Defender AV went ahead and blocked somebody from trying to download people's credentials. They're trying to run a tool that downloads all the credentials and steals them. All right. So Defender blocked it. But when we dug into it, so Defender stopped them from stealing the credentials. Awesome. Defender is a really, really good tool now. Don't let anybody tell you differently, right? Defender's a great tool now. So what happened is that stopped the theft attempt. That gave it to us to have a look at. And then we dug into it more and went, right, well, we can see that your 48 VPN has stolen credentials on it. And then they moved into this Windows account. So they laterally moved into this Windows account from the 48 VPN, and then Defender blocked them at this, right? This is what Defender is designed to do. This is what we're designed to do, to give people like Intelliworx and yourselves more information so you can make sure that you can protect yourself against these hackers. We also went ahead and blocked the IP for 14 days while the tool was going and putting it into their firewall. All right, so it's a lot of fun working here. We get to really ruin hackers' days, which is a point of pride for us. So we love doing this stuff. We will be open for questions at this point, I believe. So please fire in any questions that you guys have.
Yeah, so let's dive into Q&A. So if everybody'd like to submit some questions, that would be great. We've also received some pre-submitted questions, which I'll run through. And if we don't get through to your your question, then you can send those questions through to hello@intelliworx.co and we'll come back to you.
Yeah, so there is one in there. So the Perth charity users had local admin rights. So they had the ability to install, not so much local admin rights. So they had the ability to install. They didn't have full admin rights, but they didn't have good policies pushed down. This is why we say you really need to partner with somebody like Intelliworx to make sure that those things aren't just left open.
Yeah, just so things don't run randomly.
Yeah.
just for the fun of it. So the first question that we got submitted was the person submitted, I'd like to explore remote work options for staff. What are the options for secure VPN and VDI solutions? And then there's a second part about best practices that can be implemented to ensure safe cloud user environment. So I think maybe Blake can probably fire off an answer to that.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. So in regards to remote work options, we see different ecosystems be used, but essentially you can use things like Azure Virtual Desktop, Microsoft Cloud PCs or W365, and getting and leveraging that integration with M365. So, it's cost effective for existing Microsoft users. It supports conditional access and MFA. And that's how you can really utilize what you're currently already using with those remote and secure VDI and VPN solutions. In regards to best practice in safe cloud user environments, we definitely recommend that you implement zero trust architecture for things in your networking endpoints. There's applications that you can use to lock down those endpoints. So we're really analyzing everything that's happening on them. Using, as I've said before, using MFA and moving to more secure authentication methods and having role-based access control based on what the person in your organization needs to complete in regards to their position and their role, monitoring endpoints and user behavior continuously. Huntress now has a Steam product. They're pulling everything they can into Huntress, and it's grabbing it's keeping all the important information in there, and it's constantly monitoring that behavior. And just making sure that you've got network redundancy and you're optimized for running VDI environments within your organization. It's going to be a much better user experience in terms of best practice if you have your network bedded down before you embark on that journey.
Yeah, that's good. So the next question was around Microsoft Entra ID P1 licenses, and if there's any non-profit offers. So at the moment, Microsoft, I believe, don't have any. We're happy to come back with some more specific information on that. Microsoft's just changed their Tech for Social Impact or Tech for Social Good program. So there's some changes there in terms of what licensing is discounted and so forth. So we'll specifically come back to that person. The next one is around budgets, which for NFPs are notoriously tight. So it was, how do we balance tight budgets with the need for robust cybersecurity? And are there any low-cost tools or strategies you'd recommend? So I'll start answering that a tiny bit, and then I'll probably hand over to Blake a little bit. But our recommendations are always use completely what you're paying for. So in most scenarios, NFPs are using some type of Microsoft licensing, which is already significantly discounted. So if you're using Business Premium or for the larger organizations, E3, they come with a lot of tools already in it. We recommend using that completely and then augmenting it with tools like Huntress and ThreatLocker so that we get the full value of the Microsoft product with that increased level of security on top. ThreatLocker will lock down environments, so it'll stop things from running that shouldn't, and Huntress will prevent things from running and use the tools, Microsoft tool set to do that. And from a strategy point of view, I think it's probably best Blake responds to that.
Yeah, I've definitely touched on some of these earlier in our meeting. So, just practices such as enforcing strong password policies in MFA, conducting staff training. Sean mentioned the user who clicked an RSVP. Definitely send some user awareness training to them on the different attack vectors that can happen within organizations. We also recommend that you use, there's free resources out there. Each region has a different association or foundation that will be responsible for the free resources. But the National Cybersecurity Alliance, the ASD, they have a lot of resources that can assist you with without paying to increase the awareness of cybersecurity. And just the simplest one would be my last recommendation, which would be regularly backing up and patching your systems in your environment.
Yeah,
that's good.
I can also throw in here for just incident response as well. If budgets are a problem, I'll throw it in chat. You've also got the SANS Institute, which will give you a whole bunch of incident response. So how you should do that, regulatory obligations and things like that. So that's an important one. And I would back up just the security awareness training side of things.
Yeah.
I really dislike that a lot of the security community is saying that people are like a weak point. I think it's actually the reverse. A properly trained person will be your strongest point, right? That's what the threat actors are trying to do. They're trying to speed things up for you. So just take a breath, right? Take a breath. And one thing that Blake and Shane both brought up is that playbook side of things, especially with the supply chain type attacks that are happening right now. Have a book off to the side with written phone numbers in it of the contacts at that business. And no matter what, do not call a phone number on an email if somebody is changing an invoice number. Go back to that book and have that, call that person. Do not email that person. Make sure you get them on the phone or drive to their office. Somebody will take an invoice being a week late and actually getting the money than a hacker getting the money. So If they're not happy with that, that's where I'd start looking at somebody in your supply chain, in that supply chain, that might be a better partner. So definitely vet the people that you're working, sure they've got those playbooks on their side, because you want to really work together to make sure hackers don't get you.
Yeah, that's good. And I suppose just on top of that, we would rather somebody raise a ticket for something that is nothing than need to respond to an incident. So with your user training, uh, make sure you encourage them to just raise a ticket and log an incident, even if it's nothing. So the next question we have, given the rise in supply chain attacks, how can NFPs assess the cybersecurity posture of their third-party vendors without dedicated security teams? So my recommendation here is that there's just a simple framework that you should stick to. Keep your questions simple and clear. So the 5 questions I would probably stick around. Where is your data stored? Which for a lot of Australian organisations is important. We have the Australian Privacy Act that really requires that if it's Australian data, it should be stored in Australia. So it's important that your vendors are doing that. The next is, how do you protect your data in transit and also at rest? Both of these are important, because if one is not encrypted and the other is, it's a weak link that can be exploited. Then the next question is, what do they do with your data if you stop using their service? I think that's important. You don't want your data just hanging out anywhere without your knowledge. So it's important that they can answer that question. Ask them for their policies on how they handle breaches and what their business continuity plans are, so that you know that you can still operate if they're in the middle of an incident. And if they can't, then you just need to work on your own BCP plans. And then probably an important thing is ask for references for similar not-for-profits that have used this vendor, and just pick up the phone and ring those people and see what it's been like for them. And from a best practice point of view, we'd encourage you to make sure that they have certifications. So ISO 27001. In some instances, Australian companies also have SOC 2 compliance, because they might be doing work overseas, or it may be a requirement. Check and see if they've done right fit for purpose certification, things like that. You need to include security clauses in your contract, so that you know when something's happening, how you'll be notified, and rights to audit data, depending on how large the contract things like that is. Use security rating platforms or automated questionnaires, so that you can just gather some information on these vendors. And then you should always categorize your vendor by risk level and monitor that. So when I'm talking about risk level, it's what data you're actually putting into that environment and how much of an impact it'll have on your business if it were ever to be breached. Because I think that's important that stakeholders know, boards know those types of things, so they can make a proper assessment on whether or not to use a tool. We've got a couple of other questions now. The first one is, how do I tell C-levels that Macs are just as vulnerable as Windows? Blake can answer that question because he likes Macs.
Yeah. I think it's the best way to convince C-levels is just show them, like from my perspective, is just show them the news. There's a lot of information out there in the news about updates that have been required on Macs and the whole ecosystem within Apple, in regards to exploits, in regards to things that have been used as an attack vendor in an organization. In terms of Huntress is also heavily involved in the Apple and the Mac space at the moment, and they're increasing their feature set quite frequently. So from my point of view, it's the fact that that's happening means that it is a method of getting attacked. Otherwise, it wouldn't be important to Huntress to actually have that as something in the organization to monitor. Macs are definitely not set and forget. They require just as much hardening, just as much user configuration, just as much privilege escalation and those kind of things as Windows devices are. And Sean, feel free to throw anything else in that you
I've thrown in for them. I've thrown in the actual Q&A. There's a link to a blog that we wrote. We do something here at Huntress called Tradecraft Tuesday. You are more than it's on our YouTube channel. You don't have to sign up for it. Go watch them. If you like Hacker Tradecraft, there's no selling in it. But I've thrown a Mac malware one in there that goes through basically a whole bunch of Mac malware for you. So yes, as they've got more of the market share, there's a rise of malware coming, right? It's going to happen. The more market share they got, the more they're going to go after them. So it's definitely one of those things that we're seeing happening more and more. It's not just Windows anymore. Look, most of the attacks happen on Windows, but Macs are definitely vulnerable, and you have to have that detection on there. Otherwise, you're just doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. So we have another question on the basis of getting rid of virus infection. No, we don't. We really recommend that you partner with us or an MSP to really configure your security environment so that it's usable. People can still do their job, but it's from a security point of view locked down so that you're sort of not worried about that sort of stuff. So that's sort of my opinion on that one. And then there's a question about what we think about the Essential 8. So from our point of view, we like to align all our clients to Essential 8. There's different levels of maturity within the Essential 8 that we like to work with our clients over a period of time, 12 to 24 months, to take them from an immature security posture to a mature security posture. It is a good start. It covers all of the right basics to ensure your organization is covered from a security point of view. Depending on the industry, we'll work with our clients and implement NIST and other security frameworks. But from our point of view, the Essential 8 is the framework we like to work with. The Centre for Cybersecurity, the Australian Centre for Cybersecurity, I should say, is constantly updating that. So it's not it's not a set and forget scenario. They are constantly updating it. They're very active. So I think it's a great framework for us to be working towards and aligning our clients to. Excellent.
Essential 8. I can jump in here as well because I've done a lot of work on it from the Huntress side.
Yeah.
Look, it's a strong baseline, right? It's a really, as Shane's kind of said, it's a really good start to get rid of over 50% of the incidents, right? If you align to that maturity level 1, maturity level 2, it's going to be a strong front line to stop a lot of the basic attacks. Is it going to stop a 0-day or very novel tradecraft? No, right? That's where you need more. But is it going to stop your end users? The only thing that I wish was that security awareness training was an essential, right?
Yeah.
I would put security training as an essential. Think we've missed the mark slightly there by not having it as an essential, but it will protect you from a lot of the attacks that will just put you in downtime for a few days, which is horrendous for any business. So yeah, it's a good set of controls to get you started, but then you want to really go on your journey towards those bigger frameworks of your NIST, of your ISO 27001, with your SOC 2. Those are the things that are going to deliver ultimate security outcomes and processes, but the Essential 8 will start you on that path.
Yeah, that's good. Excellent. Well, I think that's our last question. So we're going to wrap up our security deep dive for nonprofits. We hope you found the session insightful and packed with some actionable strategies to boost your cybersecurity. I just want you to remember that adopting technical best practices, modern detection tools, and layered defenses are really essential for mission continuity and data protection. If you have any further questions or need assistance, feel free to reach out to either Blake or I. And if you're interested in the third session, let us know via our social channels or send us an email. And I'd just like to say thank you for joining us today and have a great day.